Hey there, sports fanatics. I'm Ann, your go-to gal for all things football with a side of sass and strategy. Welcome to Epic Sports Shenanigans, where we share the drama, the laughs, the nail-biting analysis, and epic breakdowns.
And I'm Kay, the guy who lives for those underdog stories and over-the-top celebrations. Epic Sports Shenanigans is your ultimate hub for sports gone wild. 10 more games to reveal the Premier League champion. Will it be Manchester City or Arsenal hoisting that trophy? Let's kick this off.
All right, well, in the end, in this battle of the London clubs, it is the team up north, Arsenal, who managed to get all 3 points in this one. All right, let's have a look at the top half standings of the Premier League. And you guessed it, it is the Gunners who are still very much out in front, 5 points ahead of Manchester City and Manchester United in third.
This game was boring, and for some, maybe even disappointing. So the question is, do all of Arsenal's games have to be entertaining?
The first half was okay. It was quite okay, good games, but I feel a bit disappointed in the end, because we want to see flourish games, right? Fluid games, passing, attacking, scoring chances. But at the end of the day, we see 3 goals by set pieces for a derby. A bit strange. Yeah.
But does it matter if you're Arsenal and you're just trying to win your first title for 22 years?
Yeah, I think so, to be honest. I don't know, but yeah, I think so, because winning today was obviously really, really important for Arsenal. But as a fan, I should, I want to see more,
What do you think, Patrick?
I think, on the Arsenal point of view, what really matters is the 3 points. It is really important for them. And of course, when you look at the game a little bit more deeper, scoring 2 goals on the set pieces, and it wasn't really open games. You expected Arsenal to go a little bit more forward. Obviously, Chelsea has a massive and a big part of the game because they were quite well organized defensively. So it was quite difficult for Arsenal to create chances. But of course, when you are top of the Champions League table, you are top of the league table, you are in a final in the cup, and you're still in a FA Cup competition. So the expectation is higher. And you expect more from this Arsenal Football Club. And today, yes, on the side of the game, creating, going forward, taking risk, and I am a little bit disappointed, but the matters is, for them, is to win, taking the 3 points.
Again, it was a scruffy game, but it doesn't matter. You're going to get moments like that. Mikel Arteta would want to see, I think, a bit more fluidity in his team, but Chelsea made it difficult for them.
It doesn't matter. We've always said this. We said it's a result-oriented business. You have to get things done. And for this club in particular, we say you have to win trophies. They're making it boring now for us in a certain way, because a lot of people out there, all the neutrals out there, they want to see Arsenal fumble. They want to see a little, because obviously they've got to play ManCity, and we'll take a look at the schedules moving on. But they want to see a fumble. They want to see entertainment. They want to see, can they cross the line? And they're answering all these questions. This was not an easy matchup for them against a Chelsea side that have a lot of young talent, a lot of attacking options as well. And they constantly have proven to get the job done over and over and over again. And is it pretty? Not really, but it doesn't care, and nobody will care. They get the job done again at home today. Huge 3 points down the stretch.
Yeah. Entertainment value, does it matter at this stage?
No. I mean, if you ask this question to the player, they will respond to you very clearly, saying that we prefer, to win games beautifully, with romantic parts. But I spoke with some fans yesterday, and one of them was already there, when we won the double in 1998. And he asked me, he said, "Do you remember the game we won at Highbury? It was a frozen night, winter night. It was a game in hand against Bolton, and you scored the only goal, and we won 1-0. And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, I remember very well, because we won ugly that night." And he said, "Yeah, definitely." So at the end of the day, do you remember what it means to win a title? You cannot. It's not the perfect road, It's not. You are not going to win every single games beautifully. That's not possible.
It doesn't really matter if you play well. It doesn't really matter if you perform at your best or not. If your star players are clicking. If it's all about winning. And as we saw with City yesterday against Leeds United, for example, where they were outplayed in that first half, you just find a way. And today, Chelsea were probably the better team, more than Arsenal. But But in the end, I think the fact that they went and fight to get that win, show the character, I think was the most important, and probably what Mikel Arteta will keep in mind, because Chelsea were probably the better team over the whole 90 minutes. Even with 10 men, they put a lot of pressure on. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters the most is the 3 points.
They're at the wire now, a few games left, proving doubters wrong. No slip-ups yet, even as City keeps clawing back like a zombie in a horror flick.
Hearts racing, minds focused, every pass a potential legacy maker. Who will survive?
I think if you put those teams together, ManCity they look, and the feeling that I get is that ManCity is calmer.
Yeah.
There is not as much pressure on ManCity. On Arsenal, there is so much pressure, and you can see at times that they are playing with the handbrake on, even though they are absolutely magnificent.
Mm-hmm. And then Man City doesn't help that they keep on coming back and winning games as well, and they're right behind them. So can you imagine the pressure? And the pressure's there for sure for these players. We talked to Saliba a couple times, and you can sort of see how bad they want to win things. And they've put themselves in the situation now. They put themselves at the doorstep, and now it's a matter of being able to walk through it. And so they have to be taking some sense of pride from this as well now, that they're not playing their best football and they're still getting 3 points. So 3 points against Chelsea is not an easy 3 points to get, I don't think. And over the course of 90 minutes, they look like they've just gotten to a place where they're going to find ways to win. They're going to find ways to make defensive plays. They're going to find ways to score goals from set pieces or from individual moments, from the depth that they have off the bench. So I think they're well equipped to find ways over the course of 90 minutes to really push games if they need to. And again, we talk about over the course of 38 games being able to push games. Sometimes being able to not to push games like how they have been is helpful too, because they don't make a lot of mistakes.
The fact that they didn't win the title for so long, so there is maybe a little bit of frustration and stress, because you want to do so well that you are not taking the risk that you are taking in the start of the season. So looking at where they are and a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of stress, a little bit of pressure can have an impact on their games. But I believe that there is enough experience, there is enough quality, there is enough personality for them to go on the field and to go to win the game. And I think today, set pieces make the difference.
Everyone is talking about Man City's experience. Will it really make a difference?
You look at Manchester City and they've got players got so much experience. It's a massive advantage. We got Rodri and Bernardo Silva and all these sort of guys interested.
They are very experienced, but they are going to totally something different than how they have won it before. If you remember when they were so dominant and they were winning 1-0 or 2-1s, he would not make a substitute. He would not change it, or he would put another striker on. Now it's the other way. He's putting another defender in. He's putting another defender in, and he's going 5 in the back in the last 4 or 5 minutes. What back in the day would never happen.
I know, mate. It's a good point.
So they experienced it in a different way as well. Even though they're looking so calm and all that kind of stuff.
What did you think of City last night? Leeds gave them a terrific game.
I think Leeds is that was an awkward one for City, and I think that Pep Guardiola, there's a clip of Pep Guardiola at the end of the game where he's got that little grin on his face. He goes like that, little kiss to the fans, and then he goes like that, and you don't see too much emotion, but we have in the last couple of weeks, haven't we, seen emotion from Erling Haaland, from Pep Guardiola, where they know what's happening here. They know they're applying pressure to a team who haven't got a great deal of experience in this race. And they'll be sat there tonight, Manchester City, thinking, they'll just be in their roast dinner thinking a little bit, when Chelsea nearly score in the last minute, they'll just be thinking that might be something that would help them. But
depends which narrative you want to run. If you want to run the narrative that Pep Guardiola's won the Premier League with a different set of players, albeit there's still some consistent faces, and then you can run that and say, well, they've got the experience and know-how, so they should be ultimately the Man City machine that hunts down other teams. Not the same team. Don't play the same way. Don't have the same capabilities that previous sides have had. And if you look at the other narrative that Arsenal are inexperienced, I look at both teams and think both teams. Leeds gave Man City a hell of a fright. They were in that game. I mean, if Calvert-Lewin scores in the first 5 minutes, it might be a different game. He misses a sitter.
Yeah.
So I don't think they sauntered past Leeds. I think they were in a difficult game at Leeds. And Arsenal were against a highly competitive, highly invested in Chelsea. So the fact that it might not have been what everyone thinks it should be, some wonderful game of football, which very rarely these games with the big sides play against one another, is a wonderful game of football. Every now and again you get the exception. Arsenal won. They did the job. Free kicks, corner kicks, who cares? They win football matches. They beat Spurs last week. They beat Chelsea this week. 2 London derbies, which can take their own life. They're a difficult game to play in London derbies, as he will attest to. Job done. I look at Arsenal and say, it's yours to lose.
Arsenal and ManCity play for the Carabao or League Cup. Will the result affect the title race?
If they lose that final, I think it will affect them a lot more than Man City. If they win, I think that they will gain so much confidence from that, and I think they will play a little bit freer.
So my question is, does playing first provide a psychological advantage?
Gary made the point, you've been there as well, winning many titles. It's a question of sometimes going second is not the easiest when you see your opponents have got the result on the board. You can feel their breath.
I think one of the toughest things in a title race is when you're actually asked to play second and your competitor, your main rival's playing first. And City have had that advantage in the last week where they played 2 games ahead of Arsenal. I don't know how many times that's going to happen. I actually think that, to be fair, look, it always happens, and to be fair, we're on TV, but it is a massive advantage to play first. So I don't know how many occasions that's going to happen before the end of the season, but I think there is something when it gets to the last 6 or 8 games where maybe they should play together or on the same day. I don't know how that can work, because obviously you want to try and get every single game on, but I do think it's a big advantage. And Arsenal, Mikel Arteta before the game was asked by Patrick Davison whether it's an added pressure seeing your rivals win last night, and he said no, because we just need to do our job. That's the standard answer. It absolutely is a lot more difficult. If Leeds get a goal last night in the 90th minute, Arsenal just lift themselves on a Saturday night and they've not even played. If City get over the line and win, you don't go down, you don't get down in the dumps or anything like that, but you just think, right, we definitely have to win tomorrow, you know what I mean? You've got no cushion, you've got no room for error. So
it's always better to be first, because you control the momentum and you know that what you need to do is just to win games to get there. So it's always, I believe, to be the one to be chased than the one who chased the first one.
But it almost feels like, Patrick, there's more freedom in chasing.
No, there's no freedom. I think it's as a competitor, as a winner, from the first game of the season to the last one, you want to be at the top. So I think that Manchester City will want to be in Arsenal position.
Arsenal and ManCity are both involved in the Champions League tournament. How does this affect either team?
And the Champions League, how much do you see the Champions League being a key factor in this title race?
A key factor in terms of helping?
Well, or hurting potentially. Like if both teams get to a semifinal, you can't fully commit to both, you would think.
Yeah, I think, look, Arsenal got the side of the bracket that you want when you look at the past champions, and not many of them are on that side where that Arsenal's on, so that's a lot easier side. That's a lot easier run going into the final 10 games, 9 games of the season. So that's going to be an advantage for Arsenal for sure.
How he manages the squad whilst winning a trophy and making sure he wins this league. Because look, the Champions League, you can never just throw away the Champions League. And you're in a Carabao Cup final, so you have to play your best team in that. The Mansfield game's the one that they'll just completely change. I mean, he'll just have to risk, but that's a risk, that's a calculated risk. But this is the trophy they have to win. I think before the game, I don't know how many times we go over to that 2004. We go over to 2004 and say the last time Arsenal won the Premier League title was in 2004. It's now 22 years. And I support a football club that went 26 years without winning it, from sort of what it was, 1967, was it, to 1993? And you don't want that. I mean, that's too long for this football club to be. And they've got so close over this last 3 years. This is really the trophy that will transform this group of players and this manager. The Premier League title, it will transform them. It will be the one that people think, right, they are real. They've done it. So, and the Arsenal fans know that. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the run-in. It's close. they're up against Pep Guardiola, but you wouldn't want it any other way, would you? If you're going to win it, you'd want to go and beat the man that basically has always won it type thing. You want to make sure that everybody's there when you go and win it, and you don't get it sort of handed to you as a gift. Not that they would turn that down, but you want to make sure you've come through it and you've withstood a title charge from Manchester City, and you've been sort of in a neck and neck race, and you've really sort of got that endurance and that mentality that you can look back upon and think, right, okay, we've done it, we are champions. So I think for me, it's an intriguing next 6 to 8 weeks. City are not going to make it easy for them, and last night they didn't have it easy themselves, but they got over the line.
Do you think, Daniel, the Champions League draw could have an impact for both these teams? Because for Arsenal, it's Bayer Leverkusen, then it's a Bodo Glimt or a Sporting, and for Manchester City, it's a Real Madrid, maybe a Bayern Munich.
Yes and no, but look, top football clubs, you have big games, top players, world-class players that have to step up and perform. And we know that there's a lot of football matches, and we talk about schedules and resting and this, that and the third. But I think for both teams, they want to be successful in every competition. Every manager, the intensity from the managers is about winning everything. That's the ideal scenario. I think for Arsenal, I would say the Champions League or the Premier League is a huge victory. This season, probably more than any for the Champions League, is a season that it seems as if they have an amazing opportunity based on the draw. They've still got to go and execute. I think the Premier League and why it feels like that's probably more is, yes, the amount of time. Right, we can talk about the Champions League. They've not done that, I think, in the history. But then you look at, because they've been in control for so long, it almost feels like, you have to go and win the Premier League. So if they didn't win the Premier League, I think it would feel worse than if they didn't win the Champions League.
I think these are unbelievable moments that you grow in personality, you grow in character, and you grow one step closer to getting your hands around the Premier League trophy, which is what they so badly want and desperately need. They've got a favorable draw for the Champions League. They are in there. They control their own destiny in the Premier League. They're in the Carabao Cup final against a Manchester City side that I think has more flaws than them. I think ManCity has more flaws than this Arsenal side. Everyone, the whole world is watching Arsenal and saying, okay, when's the wobble going to happen, right? And where's the weakness going to happen? The whole, for me, the entire conversation was the teams that were chasing them constantly have bigger issues and bigger liability, bigger weaknesses in their team that are obvious. And Arsenal don't have all those weaknesses now. Is it done yet? Have they walked through the door? No, but moments like today, I think, tell you exactly where they are, where they don't play their best football and they go out and get 3 points and they say, okay, let's go. Let's roll it on to next week.
Arsenal have become deadly with set pieces like corner kicks, and ManCity improved their squad with 2 new signings. Which strength will shine?
We keep talking about so much with this team is this notion of them being set piece FC.
And they are.
Right, and scoring goals from corners. This is the way that they are a threat. Was this almost something that was overlooked in the game, and that Arsenal are just maximizing this thing that we probably should have been paying more attention to in football? The idea of being good from corners, because they are just absolutely destructive. We see here in terms of 63% of goals from open play. This is in all competitions. And a third of their goals are coming from set pieces. It seems impossible that so many teams have tried to maximize value in this sport, and yet somehow Arsenal are doing it to a level above and beyond what we've ever seen before.
It's the perfect storm of things, Whitty. It is certainly something Arsenal look at and say, we're going to dominate you in this part of the field. We know that. And there's not many sections of the game where I think you're going to dominate someone in that section of the field.
And Semenyo is a good signing, eh? He's a good signing. Gay and Semenyo, really good additions in that transfer window. And that could be the difference for City at the end. If City do win it, you'd be looking at that transfer window and thinking that's where they just made the difference.
Looking at the remaining games in the Premier League, does either team have an advantage?
Take a look at the title picture in terms of what is left for both teams that are in this competition, Arsenal and Manchester City. Let's start with Arsenal first in terms of going through it and seeing how these two teams can fare. So they play again on Wednesday. That is away at Brighton in the Carabao Cup, in the Premier League. And then there's actually a fair few cup matches between now and the end of the season. There's an international break, so they play against Everton on the 14th, and then you kind of start looking through it. Those next 3 kind of all look like wins, right? So I think by the time they get to Manchester City, they will like to have 9 points from 9 more, and that makes it a 5-point race entering that game against City at the Etihad.
Yeah, and against City, they're going to be at Manchester City for sure, but they are going to have, like you say, the advantage, and I think they're going to be quite comfortable to sit in and say, okay, let's go. You take the game to us. ManCity, we know they're susceptible on the counterattack. The back line a little bit shaky. That's been a theme over the last 18 months for Pep. And Arsenal will look to exploit that, and they'll be playing in a game where I think they're comfortable, and Manchester City will be forced to go and ask the questions and make the game. And if the roles were reversed, and they could be, Woody, because obviously you're giving them wins for those first three, but obviously football's funny. If they go to Manchester City and they need to make the game, Arsenal need to make the game, that's when I would be worth it. More worried about Arsenal's opportunity and Arsenal's chances against Man City, but I think they'll be comfortable in that game because they'll be able to sit in and be able to hit on the counter and do what they want from set pieces and take advantage of Man City's weakness.
I think in the overall, though, this is a kind fixture list. If you're trying to win a Premier League title, it's really only Manchester City away that's worrying you massively.
Man City definitely has the tougher remaining schedule for the rest of the season, especially when the Champions League is included.
Yeah, and let's take a look then at Manchester City, because you've kind of mentioned this idea that this is a flawed team that doesn't deliver that sort of imperious level of performance, or game after game after game, they're getting victory. So here is what they have left. They're home with Nottingham Forest in this midweek round, taking on Vitor Pereira's side that are just outside the relegation zone. That feels like a victory at home.
I think so.
Yeah, away at West Ham also feels like a victory to me. Away at Chelsea?
Difficult one.
It's a tough one.
I think it's a really difficult one because Chelsea don't lay down for anyone, and they're a young project, young team. I understand that under Liam Rosenior, new manager, they're still trying to do things the way they want to do it. But Chelsea is no walk in the park, especially there at their place. I think that could be a draw, could even be a loss, Woody.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree and say draw. We called the Arsenal City game as a draw as well. So they basically have to win out from here. Away at Burnley is a win, you would think.
Yeah.
Away at Everton, they've been actually pretty poor in their new stadium.
Yeah.
Feels like a victory as well. Home with Brentford feels like a win. Away at Bournemouth could actually be
the tricky
a pretty
one.
Tough game.
Yeah. I think the away one at Bournemouth, and especially if you put those last three together, Bournemouth, Villa, and Crystal Palace. Those are three teams that can, on their day, as good as anybody.
Yeah. Especially Villa on the final day. They might be pushing for Champions League football on that final day as well.
Exactly.
And then home with Palace. This is a game TBD. We'll see where they fit it into the schedule. Obviously, it would be a curiosity where Man City are in their Champions League campaign, but we'll have to fit that fixture in somewhere. Palace have actually always played well at the Etihad, incredibly enough.
Yeah.
Taking everything mentioned in this video into consideration, who is more poised to walk away with the Premier League title?
Look, it's in both their hands, isn't it? I mean, that's
absolutely is,
simple as that. It's in both their hands. So, Manchester City's players have been there before. They won't shirk it. But yeah, there's an interesting game going on because obviously Arteta's worked with Pep Guardiola, so there's a respect there obviously as well. But Pep Guardiola won't want to get beaten by anybody, let alone someone who's been his disciple at one point. And City, I thought last night, they're not at the best. They're not convincing. I don't know how many times we have to say this. They're not what they were a few years ago. Leeds had a good 20-25 minute period where you just think they've got to score in that period, but then after that City start to play.
There's the pressure as a team, you want to do well, but there's a outside noise as well that you have to manage, you have to control. And I think when you're looking at Pep talking about Arsenal and saying that Arsenal is the best team at the moment, that is as well putting a pressure on the shoulder of Arsenal Football Club, and that is part of the game as well. But it will be really important, and especially when you get to the end of the season like that, there's a key games that you have to win, and doesn't matter if you play well or bad. And I think today's games was one of them. But the key moment I think will be the game between Manchester City and Arsenal. I think that will be the decided game, because when you're looking at after that game, you expect both teams to win all the games of the season. So for me, the key moment and the important moment will be that game.
Arsenal are in control of their own destiny. They may not be in control of their own destiny if they go and lose at the Etihad, but that game will be that game. And beyond that, all Arsenal can do is control the controllables. And the fans, and their part of it is you believe you're one of the best football clubs in Europe. You have a sense of entitlement. Yeah. Every time I listen to an Arsenal fan, you have a sense of entitlement about what you're entitled to. So make sure that sense of entitlement manifests itself in positive reinforcement, rather than apprehension, which then spreads to the team and gives the team an excuse.
Yeah. If you compared Arsenal and Manchester City, I think Manchester City going through a difficult period, but they're always going to keep the philosophy. I think the way that they're going to play, try to build up from the back, that is part of the DNA. And even if they're going through a difficult period, they are staying with kind of philosophy. Arsenal going through a difficult period, they are capable of adapting themselves at how they are feeling at the moment. If they are missing players, they may going to tweet some of the tactical aspect of the game. I think that is kind of the differences between the two clubs.
To add on that, I think for me, ManCity is playing the better games. For me, they're the best
in terms of style.
Style of experience, in terms of approaching the games. Yesterday, the games they play against Leeds, it's not easy, very difficult. I watched the game carefully and I see that Leeds have that momentum, but ManCity joins with calmness, with control, with understanding, and they're really good, right? For me, I think that's gonna go into the end. For me, in my opinion, and for me, at the moment, ManCity are playing better games.
You said they're playing better football. You said they hope they win. Are they going to win? Are they going to win the title, ManCity?
Yes, I definitely want it.
Okay.
I definitely want it.
You ain't playing. You say it like it is. Okay.
We better let you go quietly and don't repeat that outside this studio.
Whew, what a ride. So viewers, who's your pick? Arsenal grinding the glory or City snatching it back? Drop your hot takes in the comments below.
Remember to hit that subscribe button for more epic sports shenanigans where we make sports unforgettable. Share this video with your mates and let's build this community together. Thanks for watching. See you in the comments.